Okay, now we're recording. Okay, so now we've added a chain to our table. We need to add a rule to this chain. Okay, so let's add a rule to the chain so we can see again, so we can see the hierarchy here. So let's do nft add rule to the IP table called tab 1. Okay, and we need to specify the chain that we want to add it to. Okay, so this specifies where we're going to add the chain. Now we need to specify the rule that we want to put in place. Okay, the rule that we want to put in place is we want to specify the, what's that? Yes, there's supposed to be two eyes. So this is the input interface. Okay, we could also have an output interface. So this is specifying the input interface, okay, the interface name, and here we need to specify one of the names for our interface. So all of our interfaces were named something like ENP2S4, S6, S1, something like that. Okay, since we're just doing an example here, okay, this isn't going to be a valid rule for our system. We're going to flush these here in just a minute. You can put anything you want in here. Okay, just make sure it's a valid interface for your system. EMP2S1, everybody I think has that one. You're what? Okay. Just use one. Just use one because everybody has that. Okay, let's finish this off. Okay, so we want to finish it off. We specify the interface name, okay, and then we're going to say accept. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit enter. And then we ought to be able to do a list these rule sets. So nft list, that's too many S's there, list rule set. Okay, one thing that I'm just going to throw in here because it can occasionally be useful is if you add the -a flag to this list command, okay, it includes these handles that can then be used to reference the rule. For example, if you want to delete a specific rule or you want to insert or add a rule after a particular rule, you oftentimes need these handles in order to specify where you want it to be included. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay. Okay, so here we've created a table, the highest level of our hierarchy. Each table can contain multiple chains. Here we have one called chain A. Each chain has a default specification for it that specifies what type, what hook it's associated with, what priority it's associated with, and what policy we have for it. Okay, our policies are either accept or dropped, or there's a couple others. Okay, and then we can have rules. These individual rules control specific traffic that we want to either restrict or allow, okay, through a key of what we've got going on here. Okay. Okay, so that's an example of how we can do this. And using commands like this, we can actually build a firewall configuration. So the capability of doing an interact dash interactive, did I spell an NFT subprompt, and then we can add these commands without supplying the quotes and the NFT at the beginning of it. Rule IP tab 1, chain A. Okay, and this one I'm going to do output interface name enp2s. Just pick another one, it doesn't matter. Drop. Okay, now if I do what we've got in here. Okay, so here I'm still in my NFT prompt. I'm in the NFT interactive session. Okay, I added a rule to the IP table called tab 1. I want to add this to the chain A. I'm finding that the output interface name for EMP2S5, any traffic on that should be dropped. Okay, so here again, we have table 1, chain A. Here's our initial specification with our default policy, and then specifications for individual rules go down below here. Okay, so that's the basic syntax and the basic way we can create these on the fly. Typically, this is not how things are done. Okay, to get out of here, you can do a Control D, which is going to send an end of file signal and terminate your session. Okay, typically the way things are done is because we want the firewall rules to be reinitialized every time we reboot the system. Every time the system boots, and we're going to go create out, and we're going to create this basic NFT. So this directory does not exist on your system. Okay, we're going to go ahead and create it. So change directories out to etc nftables. Change directory /etc. You're going to have to do a make dir nftables. I've already got one because I've done that already. Once you've done that, change directories out there, and okay, we're going to create a new file. So you can have more than one firewall configuration that's going to provide a couple filtering rules that we're going to then be able to test. But if you have different firewall rules that you want to run for different situations, you can have multiple files in here, and you just run the appropriate one for your situation. Yeah. So yes, but the first thing if you want to run that, you can. Okay, but if you want to just leave them, you can. Okay, so here we're going to edit this basic NFT file, and I want it to contain the information that we've got here. So let me pull it up. Before you start typing it in or cut and paste and that sort of thing, let's talk through it, okay? Yes. The directory doesn't exist. You need to create nftables directory and then create this file in it, VI this file inside it. Okay, did I lose everybody? Almost everybody? Yeah. Yeah, it should be. Yeah, you need to create it. You can't run NFT commands? Okay, it's probably because go back to your assignments here, and in the firewall, no, yeah, and the firewall configuration one, no, the kernel, sorry, it was in the kernel rebuild. Kernel rebuild, probably need to execute this emerge command. So try that first. Okay, so let's talk through what we've got here briefly. Okay, so what's this first command going to do? That echo command? What's that doing for us? The echo command? Yeah, so that's what allows the firewall to act as a router, okay? Pass net traffic back and forth. We already executed that at the command prompt, okay? But this is making sure that we've got that enabled, okay? Re-executing isn't going to hurt anything. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to do is any existing rule set, we want to flush those out so that we've got a clean slate, okay? And then we want to come in and we want to create a table in the IP section for filtering, okay? And then we want to create a chain type input. Okay, notice we've got an input chain here. We've got a chain for forwarding here, and then we've got a chain down here for output. Okay, so those were our three sets of hooks that I said we were going to deal with. There's a pre-routing and a post-route that we could create. We're not dealing with those, okay? Hooks. So all we want to deal with are the input, forward, and the output. Okay. So the input is for traffic. Default setting here says we want to filter traffic, okay? And we want to drop, okay? This says that any traffic coming into the firewall rule here is going to be dropped. So we do have a rule. It says input interface name ENP2S5. For me, that's on the right side, okay? My internal network, okay? That's the specification for my internal network. I said I want to accept that traffic so that from the Rocky system, I'm able to SSH into the firewall. This is a little more permissive, just allowing the Rocky system. The end result of this is that from this side of my network, I can get to the firewall. From the other side of my network, the external side of my firewall, I was able to get to the firewall because this match from the external side and this policy here will take, okay? My forward, okay, this is the one that allows traffic to pass across the firewall from one side to the other. Okay, this one's a little bit more complex. Here I've got the same kind of setup. I'm filtering stuff. The hook that I'm using is the forward hook. That's the one passing the traffic. Okay, priority is still 0. Policy is dropped. So by default, stuff is not going to be allowed to go across the firewall unless I have a specific rule for it. Okay, so this rule says, okay, for IP traffic using a source address of 10.2.24.101, that's my Linux Mint system. Okay, so traffic sourced from my Linux Mint system going to IP adder 172.22.4.52. This is my web server. Okay, so sourced from my Linux box going to my web server using TCP destination port 80, I'm going to accept that traffic. Yes. Yeah. Okay, the D here stands for destination address. And here, notice there's an S for source address. Okay. And notice here for port, I have D for destination port. Okay. Good question. Okay, so here I'm specifying I'm going to accept that traffic. Okay, so because this is a firewall that looks at the connection that we're establishing. Okay. We enabled the CT module component in the kernel. CT stands for connection tracking. Okay. CT stands for connection tracking. And in this second rule here, okay, this says that if we're going to a destination port, we're going to allow the traffic to the firewall. Okay, going to the firewall, the destination port is port 80, right? Okay, but coming back from the firewall, the data that we pass from the web server, we go to the web server, that destination port is going to be port 80. When we come back from the web server to browser on our Linux Mint system, the destination port is some random high numbered port, okay, that we grabbed out of the unused port list on our Linux Mint system. So the source port on those packets coming back is going to be port 80. Okay, so what we want to do is here in this one, it says if the interface name is this side of my network and the output interface name is this side of my network. So again, going the web server back to the Linux Mint system, I want to connection track the state on these connections. And if it's related or established, okay, if the packet is related or established with a previously accepted packet, then I'm going to allow the traffic to go back. Okay, so this one here looks at the initial connection, okay, and says, hey, we're going to allow it. And then this one here says, hey, we're going to allow anything coming back as long as it's associated with the initial connection. Does that make sense? So we need these two rules in order to affect the web communication. If we didn't have this second rule, we would be able to send the web request, the web server would see it, but then the response would get blocked by the firewall coming back. Okay, let's take a look at the output chain here. Let's take a look at the output chain here. Okay, for the output chain, the only thing we have is our default specification. Again, this is a type filter. The output is the hook that we want to connect to. Our priority, notice our priority is fairly low on this, okay? And the policy is accept. So any traffic initiated from the firewall going out to anywhere, we're going to allow, we're going to accept, okay? These two up here, our default policy was to drop it. Here, our default policy is to accept it. Okay, so specifying these in the file like this. Oh, I forgot to mention at the very, very top. Okay, what's this very first commit line do? The very, very first line, bank / sbin / nft. No clue? Okay, so what that very, when you execute the commands in this script, they should be executed with that program. Okay, so before when we were executing nft add blah blah blah, all of that stuff, okay, we had to specify nft on the command line. Okay, when we got into the interactive session, remember when we were in there, we didn't have to specify nft because we were already in that program. Okay, here that first line specifies that all of this should be interpreted as an nft script. So it uses that program to execute these commands. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why that's the syntax. It does look like a comment because a pound is a comment, but with the pound bang, have you ever seen the t-shirt that says pound bang, all spelled out? P-O-U-N-D, pound bang / bin / bash. Okay, I mean, it sounds like you're beating somebody up. I guess that's what the cool thing about the t-shirt, but that's how you specify for a bash shell script to run. So if you're into bash shell programming, which you will be when you take the shell programming, shell scripting class, you could go grab that t-shirt. Anyway, but yeah, that's how you spell it, or how you do that. If you do a Python script or a Perl script or any other program, you can specify that at the very first line and it'll execute as that script. Okay, so are you guys still working on this, typing it in? Well done. Okay, well, let's go ahead and save it. Okay, save it and exit. Okay, so one thing that we need to be sure of before we start running our firewall, testing our firewall. Okay, let's do that flush NFT. Let's do that manually here. Flush rule set. Okay. Okay, let's execute that echo command again, just to make sure that we've got that set up properly. Okay, let's execute both of these. Okay, at this point, we should have a totally open firewall. Okay, let's do that nftables, nft list rule set. Okay, we should get nothing back. Okay, so our firewall should be completely open. This should allow transferring data back and forth. So I'm going to jump over to my Linux Mint system here. NFT list rule set. Connor? Oh, okay. So this is supposed to allow traffic from your web server back to your Linux Mint system. Okay, so this needs to be the designation, the network device for your web server, or that's closest to your web server. This is the interface on the firewall that has the IP address that can communicate with the web server. Okay, and this is the other side to the Linux Mint system. Okay, did you get the rest of this? Okay, let's go over to our Linux Mint system. Pull up your web browser. Pull up your web browser and type in the IP address for your web server. Okay. Okay, did everybody get your web page to come up? Oh. Oh, okay. Okay. So this needs to be the interface on the firewall that connects to the web server. Okay. This needs to be the interface on the firewall that connects to the Linux system. Okay. Okay, did you get your web page to come up? Okay, the other thing we want to check is we want to check and see if we can connect to the firewall. Okay, we've been able to SSH into the firewall. So if we SSH to the IP address of the firewall, we should get a prompt allowing us to log in. Okay, both of these are from the Linux Mint system from this side. Okay, so when we implement this script, when we execute this script, Okay, we should still be able to get to the web page, but we should no longer be able to get to this login prompt. The firewall should prevent us from logging in, okay, but we should be able to get to the web page. So let's go back to the firewall. Okay, let's go back to the firewall. In this directory, we can execute. Oh, one thing that I think we forgot to do is we need to change. Okay, so I already did it on my system, but we need to add execute permission to our basic.nft script. Okay, we want to add execute permission to the script and then execute the script. Oh, I think, you know why? I forgot the path name for it. Which echo, bin echo, so vi basic, oops. Okay, I think if we add bin echo there. Still didn't like that. What's that? I tried adding that /bin in front of it and it didn't work. So let's go ahead and remove that line. If you do what?
If you get rid of the first slash, then it just gets that at quotation one.
I think we're still going to have errors.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's where it errors out though. It gets past the echo part and it errors on one.
Let's just comment this out for right now. I'll try and figure out what's going on with that. Hashtag, yeah. Okay, that's already enabled. So let's just go ahead and execute it without that echo command. Okay, so let's check to see if that was implemented with the NFT list rule set. Okay, we should see our rules got populated out of the file and into our system. Okay, we should be able to go over to our Linux Mint system and we should still be able to pull up our web page. Okay, but if we try this SSH command, okay, our SSH should get blocked and we should not get a login prompt. Oh, okay. So you were SSH'd into it when you did the back or the basic. Okay. 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 But if you go over to your Rocky system, okay, you should be able to still SSH to the firewall from your Rocky system. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I've got for the lecture. Let's see if we can figure out the problems and figure out what's going on.